Imagine this. You're sitting in a cramped London cafe, rain streaking the window like a bad omen. The coffee arrived 15 minutes ago and it's already cold. The table wobbles. A man at the next table looks at his plate, pushes it away, and says 4 words that will echo across the internet.
I'm not eating this. No. What do you mean? It's beans and toast. You love beans and toast. Ew. I want a cheeseburger with ranch. We don't have ranch. Stop saying you want ranch. Stop asking people. I want ranch and I want french fries. You mean chips? No, french fries, and I also want it with ice cream. I want to dip my french fries in the ice cream. Dude, you lost your mind. We're not doing that. Yes, we are. Bring burgers to Europe.
That's not just a conversation. That's a cry for help. We owe America an apology. For decades, Europeans have polished their superiority complex to a high gleam. Better healthcare, better walkability, better bread. They don't eat processed garbage. They don't need cars that can survive an apocalypse. They have history. But something is happening right now, and it's destabilizing every smug assumption about the old world. Social media is drowning in a wave of Europeans, especially Brits, who just got back from the United States. And they are not okay. They are grieving. They are in withdrawal. They are posting tear-soaked TikToks from their childhood bedrooms, staring at the wall, realizing they have been ruined forever. The symptoms are everywhere. First, the food mourning. You watch a European walk into their local grocery store after 2 weeks in Florida, and their hand trembles when they see the cheese aisle has 7 options instead of 77. They stand frozen in front of the ready meal section, whispering, "Where is the ranch?" They cannot unsee the memory of a Cheesecake Factory menu thicker than a phone book. They have tasted hot wings at 2 a.m., served by someone who called them sweetie without irony. They have experienced bottomless soft drinks and free refills that felt like a divine right. And now they are back in a country where water costs money and ice is treated like a controlled substance.
Americans, I am severely depressed. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I miss America so friggin' much. I do. I miss it to my core.
Literally nobody prepares you for this feeling. Traveling back from a 2-week American road trip around the south. I got home, was extremely jet lagged, slept for 12 hours straight, woke up from sleeping at home and looked at the bedroom window and was like, flip me, where did we stay last night? Which city and which state are we in? And what type of hotel/motel did we stay in last night?
Paying to use a toilet. Let that sit for a moment. In America, you can walk into any gas station off a 20-lane highway, buy nothing, use a bathroom the size of a Manhattan studio, and nobody will even look at you. In Europe, you're calculating whether your bladder emergency is worth the €2. The sheer audacity of free public restrooms has become a core memory for these travelers, a symbol of a civilization that decided human dignity shouldn't have a cover charge. And when they remember it, they don't just miss it, they get angry. At their own continent, at themselves forever believing the propaganda that Europe was the pinnacle of human achievement. They hear phrases like "God bless America" in their heads, and it no longer sounds ironic. It sounds like a prayer they desperately want to mean. But it goes deeper than bathrooms and seasoned food. That clip captures something else entirely. The way Americans are willing to be absurdly enthusiastic about the smallest things. The way a stranger will high-five you in line at a Wawa because you both picked the same flavored creamer. The way that relentless, unironic energy rewires your nervous system until you return to Britain and suddenly find the polite silence unbearable. You realize you miss being called boss by a teenager working the drive-thru. You miss the complete stranger in an elevator who told you their entire medical history in 14 seconds. You miss the guy at the airport shuttle who said, "I appreciate you," like he was bestowing a knighthood. You didn't know you needed that, but now you're back home where nobody will compliment your shoes unless they're trying to sell you life insurance, and it feels like a prison. Now let's talk about the emotional devastation. Not the light, joking kind. The real, hollow, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. kind.
Big. I like them chunky. I like them big.
That's something I really don't like about Europe. You gotta pay for the restroom.
Not eating that.
Why? You vegetarian?
When you go to B&M for some chocolate during the heat wave in the UK.
I have this one, actually. Oh, maybe not.
America, you have single-handedly changed the UK. The UK will now be baptized in seasoning.
God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen.
It's fun to stay at the Y. It's fun to stay at the Y.
You can hear it in his voice. That's not a joke. That's a man experiencing a genuine psychological fracture. He calls it an attachment issue. The clinical term might be culture shock in reverse, but what these travelers are describing is something far more specific. It's the sudden gut punch realization that their entire life has been happening in miniature. Europe suddenly feels like a diorama, a beautifully preserved, historically significant, excruciatingly small diorama where everything closes by 8. The customer service feels like a negotiation, and the concept of land of opportunity has been replaced by a bureaucratic maze where you need a permit to feel hope. The flood of British tourists returning from the US is no longer a travel trend. It's an existential crisis. They are posting videos not to share vacation photos, but to document their psychological unspooling. They talk about missing the sense of adventure. And please, let's examine that word, adventure. The British have a monarchy, countryside walks, and pubs older than American democracy. They have castles. They have the entire European continent a budget flight away. But none of it feels like adventure in the way America does, because adventure isn't about age. It's about scale. It's about walking into a parking lot that has its own weather system. It's about ordering a drink the size of your torso at a Buc-ee's. It's about driving for 8 hours and still being in the same state, passing billboards for something called The Thing, and not knowing whether it's a landmark, a restaurant, or a warning. The Europeans who come back can't unsee the abundance. They can't unsee the portions, yes, but also the sheer number of choices. In America, the cereal aisle alone is an act of aggression against minimalism. The grocery store feels like a space station stocked for a 1,000-year journey. And you think, oh, that's just consumerism. It's wasteful. But then you live in it for 2 weeks and you realize it's not waste, it's possibility. It's the physical manifestation of a country that still believes you should be able to get what you want, exactly how you want it, whenever you want it. Even if that means dipping French fries in a milkshake at midnight in a diner that never closes, while a woman named Carol refills your coffee for the 4th time and calls you Hon with the warmth of someone who has known you for years. And what is Europe offering in return? Historical charm that slowly reveals itself as inconvenience dressed up as character. Streets so narrow your suitcase becomes a weapon. Showers that operate like a puzzle box designed by a medieval torturer. Air conditioning that exists only as a rumor whispered by American expats. The Europeans who mocked America for being artificial and plastic and fake now find themselves scrolling Zillow fantasies of suburban homes with walk-in closets, utility rooms, and central air that could cool a volcano. What once seemed tacky now looks like a sanctuary. What they called excessive now reads as freedom. But perhaps the most heartbreaking revelation is about people. Europeans have a reputation for being cold, but they call it authentic. They don't smile unless they mean it, a philosophy that sounds noble until you've spent 2 weeks in a country where smiles are freely given, where cashiers say, "How are you?" and actually wait for an answer. The European tourist momsards come home and realize they're starved for warmth. They miss the guy at the rental car counter who acted like he was giving them the keys to a spaceship. They miss the stranger at the next table who overheard their conversation and said, "Oh, you're visiting. You got to try the brisket." That doesn't happen at home. At home, you are surrounded by individuals who all agree that minding your own business is the highest virtue, and suddenly that virtue feels like being slowly frozen out of the human race. So they do what broken people do. They plan their return. Before they even unpack the suitcase that still smells faintly of Waffle House, they are searching for flights. They join Facebook groups called Brits Who Miss Target. They start following content creators who review American snacks with the reverence of wine sommeliers. They hoard ranch seasoning packets like they're gold dust. They buy a George Foreman grill and try to replicate the taste of a Five Guys burger and weep when it's not the same. Because it will never be the same. That's the devastating truth at the core of this mass breakdown. You can't bring America home. You can only return to it. And for most of them, returning forever requires a green card, a work visa, a miracle that feels further away than the moon. The irony is staggering. For decades, American culture was exported and mocked. Fast food, big cars, loud tourists, the stereotypical American who wears a fanny pack and says things with too many exclamation points. Europe laughed. Europe elevated condescension into a fine art. And now the children of that condescension are lying on their bedroom floors, staring at their phones, watching videos of Times Square and Disney World and the Grand Canyon, and a woman in a Texas donut shop who called them sugar and made their entire week. They're admitting out loud on camera for the entire world to see that America is just better. Not in every measurable metric, not in healthcare or public transportation, but in the only metric that matters to the human soul, the feeling of being alive, the feeling that the day ahead contains infinite possibility, the feeling that someone might actually greet you like they're happy you exist. America, for all its chaos, its noise, its excruciating political division, its contradictions you could write a library about, offers something Europe has forgotten how to offer: a permission slip to be enthusiastic. To want things, to ask for things, to customize your order until it barely resembles food. To say, "I love this" out loud without irony. To be friendly to a stranger and not be treated like a threat. It's a country that runs on the radical idea that more is more, and that tomorrow might be amazing. And once you've lived inside that energy, even for a week, returning to a place where quiet competence and restrained living are the highest goals feels like being sentenced to a very polite, very historical, very well-documented prison. So we owe America an apology. Not because it's perfect, not because every European who visits has an identical experience, but because we spent generations dismissing its culture as shallow. And it turns out that culture is addictive in the best possible way. It's addictive because it's warm, because it's generous, because at 3 a.m, when you are hungry and lonely and far from home, America will feed you, refill your drink, and give you a to-go cup of something called lightning lemonade. Europe will probably give you a receipt for the toilet fee and point toward a closed Pret. The evidence is everywhere now. TikTok is a living archive of Europeans having their entire worldview shattered by a trip to Target. And that's not an exaggeration. There are actual videos, thousands of them, of grown adults walking into American supermarkets and bursting into tears. Not because it's overwhelming in a bad way, but because it's overwhelming in a way that makes them realize how much they've been missing. How much color they've been living without. How small they've been taught to think. The wide shot of a Walmart in rural Tennessee is doing more cultural diplomacy than 100 embassy parties ever could. And the hardest part for these heartbroken travelers isn't the memory of Disney World. It's the memory of something completely mundane. The gas station coffee that was better than the artisan cafe they have at home. The billboard for a personal injury lawyer and a gun range on the same sign. The Walmart greeter who asked how their day was and meant it. The immaculate, well-lit, air-conditioned highway rest stop that made them feel like royalty. It's the small, meaningless moments that add up to the realization this country was built to accommodate life, not just endure it. Homes with drywall you can punch through, but also floor plans that breathe. Air that stays cool even when the outside hits 110. A bathtub deep enough to drown in. A closet you could rent out as a studio apartment in London. The conversion is happening in real time. The same people who once posted slideshows about European healthcare and vacation days are now filming themselves in American parking lots, spinning in circles, arms outstretched, saying, "Look at the space." Space isn't just physical, it's psychological. In Europe, you walk into a restaurant and you're seated so close to the next table, you become an unwilling participant in their marital argument. In America, a booth is a fortress of solitude, your own continent of vinyl and laminate. And you don't realize how much you've craved that personal bubble until you get it. And then you have to go back to rubbing elbows with strangers while you eat overpriced pasta. And it honestly makes you want to scream. This is not about America being the best country on earth. That's a separate argument. This is about the raw, unpolished testimony of millions of humans who are saying with their own voices and their own tears, "I didn't know I could be this happy." That's the line. That's the refrain beneath every viral video. They didn't know. They had been told America was a loud, fast, dangerous, shallow place, and they arrived bracing for the worst. And instead they found themselves humming along to the radio as a woman handed them a bag of food through a car window and said, "Have a blessed day." And they felt for the first time in maybe years genuinely blessed. Now imagine the return flight, the customs line at Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle, the oppressive quiet, the grey sky, the train that runs exactly on time but has no soul, the walk-up flat with the weird bathroom situation. The kettle boils and they make tea and they sit down and they scroll through photos of the trip. The neon pink of a Dunkin' sign, the mountain of nachos at a chain restaurant, the morning they drove through a foggy highway and stopped at a Cracker Barrel and ate biscuits and gravy and the waitress called them darlin', and they felt like they'd finally come home to a place they'd never lived. And they post the video, and they say the words that are becoming the slogan of an entire generation. I miss America so much, it hurts. Europeans look at these videos with a mixture of horror and recognition. The horror says, how can you prefer that over this? Gesturing vaguely at a cathedral that took 300 years to build. But the recognition is quieter and far more dangerous. It says, I felt it too. The confession is spreading. The polite disdain is crumbling. The European Union is being held together by treaties, but the emotional union is being quietly ripped apart by a memory of biscuits and gravy and a woman named Deb who remembered their drink order. And we, the collective audience watching this unfold, are forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Maybe the things America prioritized, comfort, abundance, friendliness, freedom, maybe those aren't the shallow bits. Maybe the preening superiority over walkability and cured meats was the shallow bit all along. Maybe a country that gives you free refills on iced tea is demonstrating a more fundamental respect for the human experience than a country that charges you for a tiny glass of tap water. Maybe how are you as a greeting, however perfunctory, is actually better than a sullen silence that pretends to be depth. Maybe enthusiasm is not a sign of low intelligence, but a sign of an undefeated spirit. These returning Europeans are not tourists anymore. They're pilgrims. They left home, they found something they didn't know they were searching for, and now they can't go back. Not really. They wear American sports team hoodies and use words like y'all unironically, and post weekly updates about the status of their visa application. They have developed a condition called America sickness, and there is no known cure except another trip, maybe a permanent one. So now comes the part where you, the viewer wherever you are in the world, have to make a choice. Because this isn't just a story about European tourists, it's a mirror. It's asking you what you value. Comfort or austerity? Enthusiasm or restraint? A smile from a stranger or privacy that becomes isolation? A parking lot with its own weather system, or a street so narrow the sun has never touched the cobblestones? Would you rather have a bottomless fountain drink, ice cubes clinking, refilled endlessly while you sit in a booth the size of a life raft, or pay for a lukewarm bottle of water in a restaurant where the waiter actively hopes you leave soon? Share your answer in the comments below. Like this video so YouTube's algorithm knows real-world content like this needs to be disseminated. Share this with your friend who still believes Europeans have it all figured out. Subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss the next cultural dissections. Disclaimer, this content is based on personal experiences and publicly available social media posts. It does not represent the official position of any entity and does not encourage illegal behavior. Individual experiences vary. Not all Europeans feel this way, but a shocking number of them definitely do.